So I'm going to try my very best to power through the wind. Welcome to episode 25 of Valley of the Sun, Sunday Scaries. I'm your host, as always, Sean Nickel, coming at you live. It's not live by the time it gets to you, but taped here in Phoenix, Arizona. And on today's episode, we have George Menocal on the show. This week, all around is a little bit different. I have some ideas of some new content I'm going to be putting out starting on hopefully Wednesday. And so I had George come on the show just to talk about his life, his experience as someone who has moved to several major cities since graduating from high school. So he lived in Miami and Atlanta and Chicago and Detroit. It's kind of a rare combination of places to live, but we bring him on the show to talk about his journey, his life, and what it's like moving from place to place and then finally settling down in all places, Michigan. When you're from Miami, it's pretty crazy. But I'm going to turn it over to George and let him take it from here. All right, welcome to episode 25 with my good pal, George Menocal. He's rocking Negaunee from Negaunee, Michigan. He's not from Negaunee, Michigan. We're going to talk about all the places he's from. That's like the only place he's not from currently. This is his third time on a podcast. Previously, he was on a fantasy football podcast called Addison Hard Knocks. And, I mean, this is like your debut was on This Is Podcasting with Ryan McAllister a long time ago. But that's not what we're here to talk about, not your podcasting career. Where would you attribute you're from? You've been everywhere.
I know I'm from Miami, Florida. That's where I was born. That's where I was raised. That's where I grew up.
Okay, absolutely. Miami, Florida. Got it. All right. So we're going to kick it over to you. Just want to talk about where you started from, where you went, because you've been everywhere. You've worked in multiple cities since you graduated high school. I'll kick it over to you, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, so, grew up in Miami, Florida, and it always sounds sweet to say that, but, I wasn't living on the beach and hanging out with D-Wade and LeBron. I really just grew up in another suburban part of the USA. It was just always hot. And instead of 45 minutes away, there being a lake, there was the Atlantic Ocean and a sweet beach, Like anything gets kind of old, and I always knew I wanted to, experience the country. It's a big country, a lot of cool places to live in. And I ended up in Atlanta, Georgia for college, going to Emory University, which is in Atlanta, but for my first 2 years at like a satellite campus, which was in a small little town called Oxford, Georgia, which is like within this smaller town called Covington. I had a great time. I loved it. I met a lot of great people. I was playing on the basketball team that we had there at school, so I made really good friends with my teammates. And whenever I just compete in sports with someone, I always kind of develop this little bond, and it was really easy to become friends with people you're playing sports with and you're always hanging out with. Those are some of my closest friends today, still, 10 years later. Then it's time to go to Atlanta because it's time to go to the main university, Emory, since I've gone to the satellite campus. And it was a different feel, bigger city, back in the bigger city. It was, it was nice experiencing that again. But at the same time, my friends weren't around the corner, there were different apartment complexes. You gotta drive up and meet again. It was a little bit more of a hassle. But, it's junior year, senior year college, and I'm thinking, I'm in Atlanta. I'm not trying to just go back home. I'm far away from home at this point. I'm all the way from Miami to Atlanta, and although I have my aunt there and I have different cousins, I knew I'm going to experience something else and just kind of go out on my own. I was really just always thinking about what am I going to do after. And you ever just like watch a good movie or a documentary, like it changes you? Or
yeah, of course. So
I watched, as part of this class, late in my sophomore year, this documentary called Waiting for Superman. It was filmed like early 2010s, remember that decade. Early 2010s, and it was just like a lot of like key players in the education reform movement. And this is very like powerful documentary. It's a lot of compelling arguments. I just watched it and I thought, I just want to do something about education and urban education in America. And I studied political science, and I thought I was going to gear it towards like policy and stuff. I ended up applying for Teach for America, and I got in. I was so happy, and they placed me in Detroit, Michigan, which I never really processed because I was just so happy to get in and Teach for America and be placed in that. Because I was thinking, listen, I care about urban education. I care about education as a whole in America and improving the lives of so many people. And I just want to like save the world. I'm young, whatever. So I'm in Teach for America. Let's just do it. And they placed me in Detroit, which as I got like started thinking about it, I was like, it's a whole different part of the country. There's actual winter there. I've never experienced winter. I'm really just like a Cuban kid that's never had like experienced anything like, like colder than like 40 degrees really. I started panicking about like having to drive on snow and ice and the snow itself. I was a mess. Before I got placed in Detroit, they put me in training in Chicago. Very not biased. I think I would rather live in Chicago than New York City. And for me, Chicago's always been the capital of the Midwest. You know, it was time to go to Detroit, and I felt I was feeling good. But really, after I got settled in Detroit, and it just never got off. I was just a terrible teacher. I never had control of the classroom. I could never connect with the kids. So it was the winter 2014, like my first winter living in Detroit outside of college, and just fall flat on my face. All my like goals, aspirations of being this like amazing educator, save the world, like just failed and did not pan out at all. And I'm thinking, do I go back home to Miami? Do I just kind of like reset at my parents' place, or I don't know what? And I met someone out who worked for a big company in Detroit that's headquartered in Detroit. And he gave me a shot at an interview. And just because I decided I had nothing else going on, I took it. And kind of amazing story, but I've been at this company now for going on 7 years, and it's really provided me the opportunity to have a good career. And I also met amazing people, and it really rooted me in Michigan.
All right, cool. So you have been fortunate enough to live in some of the biggest cities in the country and in a very diverse range, from Miami to Atlanta, Chicago, Detroit. What's one thing you took away from each city that you lived in?
I would say something from each city is Miami. It always seemed like things were always open at all times. So I guess just always be down and willing to do anything at any point of the night or day, because in Miami, something I know I've had great times at 6 p.m. 6 a.m. there. Something's always open. Just, you can kind of live on island time. It's that feeling of like,
Ooh, I
it's
like
time to
that.
go back, like it's the journey, not the destination. I would say it's living in Miami. It gave me like, I remember moving up here, like being friends with a lot of people from the Midwest, and like things started at 5, and I would be like showing up like 5:20, 5:30, like 6 o'clock, and people were getting mad at me. And it was kind of like the culture from where I'm from. It's you kind of like show up late to things. It's kind of like a suggestion, Like, who cares, So that island time, kind of like feeling carefree. I definitely take from Miami, from Atlanta. That southern hospitality, like you're always family, you're always welcome. That I always really valued there. I always applied everywhere else and really taken with me. It's kind of like if you're my friend, I'm always gonna look out for you. But if you're a friend of a friend, same kind of thing. If you're with me, we're gonna take care of each other. And then in Michigan, especially the Midwest, I've just always been blown away by how genuinely nice everybody is here. But I never figured out why. But everyone's just they're better people up here.
All right, man. So the premise of the podcast, it's definitely evolved over the course of 25 episodes. It's kind of just become interviewing interesting people, that are in the same age demographic as me. But the premise of the podcast is a quarter life crisis. And so you've seen a lot of the stuff that I put out. I'm just curious what your take is on what your definition would be, what your thoughts are on it, the quarter life crisis in itself.
I would say the quarter life crisis is a reference to leaving, because leaving college, and you have an idea of what you're going to do with your life in college, and maybe experiencing the real world post college, and grinding, putting time through, putting years into that plan, and then realizing like it's not for you, or you don't like it, or you want something different. And I think the quarter life crisis is that panic of you like subtract, I put in this much time, I'm already 20 something, and I gotta do this. And maybe it's not even career wise. Maybe it's you're like in a relationship with someone, you realize it's not the thing for you, or you're doing something in your life that you don't want to be doing anymore. It's time invested in a big maturing point of your life where you're really becoming an adult and things are coming more normalized for you, like the real world interacting. But maybe you're starting to have like little kid ambitions again. And like, what if I did this? What if I did that? Like anything is possible, right? And I think it's that crisis of, do I grow up, or do I stay like youthful? And do I stay like just anything is possible, purely imaginative? And I think you're fighting that, I think we all are. And, I've loved the stuff you put out. I've loved the way you've expressed it, and good for you, man,
So let's think about, you talk about your being a kid and the imagination and all that stuff, right? So let's say right now, if you can kind of paint a good picture of the next, 5-10 years of your life, like what would be the ideal dream work that you would be doing, the career path you wish you could take in the next 10 years?
I think like something with like a remote lifestyle where you can like just do something for like 8 to 10 hours and then live the rest of your life, and some sort of like leadership role or some sort of role where I'm helping and developing like people working with like teammates. I'm in a leadership role right now at work, and I've enjoyed it. It's, it's a lot and stressful, but if 10 years down the line you tell me I'm doing something like that or like management or I got some degree in management or something, I'd be okay with that too. Living wherever you wanted, or living wherever you want, and having your means taken care of because you have work. That's nice too.
So let's say you could go back and you could talk to, the George Menocal that was going through college and getting ready to, go to change the world. They were getting ready for Teach for America. They were in political science, all that stuff. I mean, I don't think that anyone wants to necessarily change their life for the most part. You got to where you are. You got married because of, TFA. Like, that's a real talk, right? You met your wife in it, but if you could change your path, what would you wish you would have done differently?
I was like very self-conscious and I was very nervous and I put a lot of pressure on myself. I don't think I'm like something. I feel like we all have put a lot of pressure on ourselves. You probably. Well, I mean, your name of your podcast is Quarter Life Crisis, so
Of course.
I think you know about self pressure. And I think I would just tell myself just to relax and take it easy. And it's probably the same things that my dad told me that I didn't listen to. So I'll try to tell my kids, and they will listen to me. But
It's a vicious circle, but you
yeah, but
you eventually realize it.
you can't like it's easier to give advice than take it. The medicine doesn't taste good, but it does a lot of good things.
So a couple last questions here for you. So you've been, man, so probably since you grew up with your actual parents, this is the longest you've ever been in one place, I would assume, which is 7 years in Michigan, which is pretty crazy after all the moving that you've done. Is in the foreseeable future for you, like, do you think that this is the long-term place for you, or is there any desire to make a move again and try and not necessarily start over, but to continue, like you said, it's a big country, it's a lot to experience. Is there any desire you have to move somewhere else to live, or is this kind of where you want to root down and stay from here?
It's interesting. I've really enjoyed my time in Michigan. It's just kind of crazy to say that I've been here for like 6 or 7 years. You grow up, you start living that like high school, college lifestyle, and it's like everything's like in 4 years. So I remember thinking like after like 4 years here, I was like, oh, nothing's happening. Like I'm just here still, and it's been fun and exciting. But yeah, maybe I am married. Maybe my wife and I move somewhere else. Maybe we move somewhere to her family's in Pittsburgh. So maybe we move there.
So, hey, listen, so we want to thank you for coming on, George. We really appreciate it. I think that there are a lot of cool takeaways, and just hearing kind of your journey and being friends with you, it's pretty wild to think that it took like 4 cities, a couple different careers, luck and happenstance and just chance. And I think it's kind of crazy to think like, what you said earlier about the quarter life crisis is pretty much spot on for a lot of people, which is, you have this big grand plan, and it's kind of like the whole, everything's great in the fight till you get punched in the face sort of thing. And to hear, where you were at, and it's just thing as crazy as like 2014, and to see where you are now, it's pretty wild. Like you wouldn't be wearing a Nagani, Michigan t-shirt, repping Nagani, had you not gone on the path that you did and wound up where you're at. So I want to thank you for coming on. Appreciate the feedback, and hopefully, down the road we can get your dad on here. I feel like he'd have a lot of fun hopping on here to talk about the quarter life crisis that he probably wouldn't definitely. He's just an entertaining guy. We'd love to have him on. You let him know that.
You would have to explain to him for a while what a quarter life crisis is. He might judge you for.
We wouldn't even explain it. I would just have him on and we just talk, and then I just clip it up and we'd get it rolling.
He's gonna want to know what the name of the podcast is. He does a lot of podcasts. He always knows the name.
I love it. But hey, listen, we thank you having on, man. We appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Sean. Love you, bro. And it's great to see the things you're doing and living your dreams and going for it, man. You're a quarterback and you always like to throw deep, baby. You know what I'm saying? You're doing it here, and thanks for having me on. I've been talking now for like 9 hours, so I hope you use some of this.
We'll clip it up. That's the beauty of editing.
Yeah, we started and there was sunlight, and now it's pure darkness. It's like, it's crazy. So love you, man.
You're the man. Love you too. We'll see you later.
Peace.
So again, George, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It really means a lot. It was also good getting to see you. It's been a long time, but hopefully we get to see each other in a couple weeks in person. But I hope that you guys learned a little bit from George's experience and the fact that you might have your whole life planned out, lined up, and the next thing you know, you're doing a complete 180 and going in a different direction. So I feel like that happens to a lot of us, specifically during the quarter life crisis. And to hear him talk through about how, he was dead set on changing the world through education and then winding up in a corporation where he's at now is pretty crazy. But at the end of the day, as long as you're happy, as long as you're fulfilled, as long as you have purpose in your work, that's what it's all about. So like I said before, this week's gonna be a little bit different. Moving forward, we got a couple of guests lined up that I'm very excited about. But before everything blows away out here in Phoenix, Arizona, I will let you guys go with the usual tagline: stay healthy, stay distanced, and welcome to the Valley of the Sun.